Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. I am so excited to gather with you here today. Now, as you are joining, go ahead and put your name and location into the chat so we can all see who's on and where you're zooming in from today. And when you do comment in the chat, make sure to select panelists and attendees from the little blue drop down that you will see right above where you're typing. That way it'll make sure everybody can see your comment. If your comment says panelists above it, only I can see it. But if it says panelists and attendees, then everybody can see it. So that's perfect. And yeah, go ahead, everybody, start putting your name and location into the chat so I can see who's on today. And welcome. I am so completely thrilled to share with you today about the art and the writing and the hieroglyphs and the temples from ancient Egypt and magical Crete. So we'll get started very soon here. Welcome to Hongkam in Alberta, Canada. Welcome to Belinda in Winchester, UK. Welcome to June in Washington, Detlef in Germany, Annie in North Carolina, welcome. Welcome Irina in Germany, Francesca in Cyprus. Oh, yay, Cyprus, that's wonderful. We will be journeying very close to Cyprus today, to Crete. Welcome Zoe in France. Welcome Angel in Italy, Ellie in the UK, Erica in Hawaii, Rosie in Ireland, Allison in New Mexico. Welcome everybody. I wish I can't read all of your names, but welcome everybody. The names are popping up so fast I can hardly keep up. Welcome Nina in California, Tracy in Australia, Anne in Northeast England, Nancy in Minnesota, Lauren Rose in Paris, yay. Ginny in England, fantastic. Claire in Birmingham, England, Sarah in Ontario, Elisa in Italy, Gary in India, thank you Gary. Annie in Vancouver, Carolyn in South Carolina, Iasula in Germany, wonderful. Well, welcome everyone. I am so thrilled today to be outside. As you can see, it is warm enough today that I can be outside and broadcast from here. So the birds and the trees will also be helping out with the presentation today. And yes, thank you, Lauren Rose. And so I want to see if we can go live on YouTube. I'm going to try this really quickly. I'm not sure if it will work, so let's just see what happens. If it will work, we will go for it. If it will be complicated, we will not. Let's see here. It looks like it's going to work, so that would be really cool. If it goes live on YouTube, I can get everybody a replay faster afterwards too. Thank you all for your patience. So we're going to get started really soon. Actually, thank you would be really cool for the comments. Oh, hold on one second. Oh, yeah. It goes live on YouTube. I can get everybody. I see myself live on YouTube. Okay, cool. I had to close that window. Awesome. Yay. Okay, well, welcome everybody joining on YouTube as well. Please put your name and location in the comments as well. And so I'm going to put a link actually here in the comments on Zoom, because I want to give you the link to the awesome Etsy store where I got these earrings. I just want to give them a shout out because they were awesome. They got the earrings to me very quickly and I love them. They're so pretty. They're real peacock feathers. And the store was just awesome to work with. So there's the link. Welcome Pusai in Wales. So good to see you. Welcome Autumn in Michigan. June in Ontario. Welcome, welcome. Okay, well, let's begin. I'm going to share my screen with you, and this is just super exciting what we're going to get into today. So here we are. So this is going to be a journey into the sacred art, symbols, and writing of ancient Egypt and magical Crete. And we're really going to be looking at the ancient goddess cultures, and especially the goddesses who were carried forward from the Paleolithic and the Neolithic times into the cultures and the traditions and the spirituality of Egypt and Crete. And so the reason that we want to look really far back is that from the earliest times, earth connection and the fertility of the mother were held sacred at the center of every society. And so this makes sense, right? All life comes from the mother, the earth mother, right? Mama Gaia, but also human life coming from the mother human, animal life coming from the mother animals. And so the mother was honored, the mother was venerated. And so this is how the goddess cultures initially developed as early as the Paleolithic times, even 50,000, 70,000 years ago. And even earlier than that, people were celebrating their burial rites by honoring the goddess, because they could see from the moon and they could see from the cycles of the seasons that when the mother is governing, that even when life ends, it's going to begin again, right? The cycle doesn't end with death. The cycle goes from birth to life to death to rebirth. We see that in the cycles of the seasons, the cycles of the stars, the cycles of the moon, everything, even the daily solar cycle. The sun is reborn again every day. And it is the same for us, right? When we die, we are not done. It's not the end. The mother then brings us back in a new form. And so this was known from the beginning times. And we see that reflected in these beautiful statues here. So this is the Venus of Willendorf. She is from about 24,000 to 22,000 BC. And this is the Venus of Lassell from about 19,000 BC. And these goddesses are so voluptuous, right? They are embodying the fertility of the earth and the fertility of the great mother goddess. And so in this way, life was placed at the center from the very beginning of humanity. We recognize this, we knew this. And this is so important for us to remember and keep coming back to as we navigate today, right? As we navigate these catalyzing, rapidly changing times of today. Because in order to heal our world, we must return to the place of the beginning. We must remember how we perceived reality long, long ago when we were closest to source, during the original times. Back then, we knew very naturally, just by following the cues of the natural world around us, how to live in sacred reciprocal relationship with both the earth and the heavens. So we knew back then that we can receive the gifts, the miracles, the blessings from the earth, such as healthy food, clean air, clean water, sparkling sunlight, the birth of our babies, the flowers, the birds, all the magic, all the beauty that is naturally given to us by the earth and the cosmos. And we could receive the intelligence and guidance from the heavens. We could receive the visions that would help us know what to do in our communities or in our individual lives. We could receive the messages from our guides and our ancestors. And we could receive the ancient stories that are written in the constellations, in the sky, to help us. We could receive the help from the angels when we most needed it. And in return for all of these beautiful gifts, we gave back. We held rituals and ceremonies to honor and show our respect for the earth, the cosmos, and life itself. We prayed to the animals when we had to kill them. We prayed, and hopefully we still do, even to the herbs when we had to take some of their leaves or some of their branches. And we returned our bodies to the soil. We gave our bodies back to the womb of the mother. The bodies in the burial rites in the Neolithic time, so this is as long ago as 10,000 to 8,000 BC, the bodies were placed in fetal position back into the womb of the mother so that she could receive back all of this abundance she had given to us that had become our bodies, and then use our physical forms to create new life 1,000 times over. This is the magic, this is the miracle of the mother. And women also knew that we need to give our menstrual blood to the earth. This was an act of reverence and oneness with all that is. And this was standard practice in ancient times. And so with the messages that we received and from our visions, our guides, and our angels, we built our temples in alignment with the above and the below. We constructed sacred societies that were centered around gratitude for life and constructed from the knowing of the heart. The knowing of the mind is important, but the ultimate knowing must come from the heart. So what we were creating 4,000 or 6,000 or 10,000 years ago or more came from a space of deep knowing and oneness and reverence and sacredness, much deeper than we can even imagine today, right? But this is what we are striving to return to. And so it's time for us to make this choice, right? To open up and welcome back in that very different way of perceiving that we had at those ancient times. And we can look to the sacred art and the writings and the temples and the hieroglyphs and really immerse in the energy of those times and really receive the blessing of the goddess, feel her in our bodies. We're going to do a beautiful shamanic movement journey at the end of this call today so that you can really feel her, feel the force of creation in your body. Let that flow through and let that flow out into everything else that you are doing, right? We're going to do that today. Now, before we dive into ancient Egypt here, I want to share one thing that is really important to know as we go into this journey today. So while I was traveling in Egypt earlier this year, one thing that I found out again and again is that the more I learned, the less I knew. And this is how our journey is going to be today, but it's a really good thing. So let me explain. So in Egypt, we would go to an ancient temple. So for example, Dendera, I'm going to show you a picture of Dendera here, actually, so you can see the power of this beautiful place. This is the temple dedicated to Hathor. And we're going to dive into this very soon. But when you step into this temple, there are the hieroglyphs all around. You can see there are hieroglyphs on the outside. There are far more hieroglyphs on the inside. There are large rectangular zodiacs in the hypostyle hall when you first come in. There is the Dendera zodiac further inside that communicates even deeper messages. And there are so many layers to every communication that you find within the temple. Every hieroglyph has at least 2 or 3 layers to it, probably far more than we know, as far as what it means. The placement of everything within the temple has deep meaning. There are crypts in the temple. You go down there and the messages are different down there. Okay. And this temple, Dendera, like all of the temples that you'll visit in Egypt, and also like the structures that are in Crete that we can visit today, were built on top of the older temples. So we don't know even how many layers, how many more millennia back in time each of these temples is honoring, because this temple, Dendera, was built around 2,000 to 2,200 years ago. But that's a very modern thing for ancient Egypt, right? There were many previous Dendera temples honoring Hathor that were built before that are lower down in the earth, right? Or that were destroyed to build the new one. So what is hidden there? There are so many layers. So as you can see, this is endless. And what we receive from studying the ancient art and the temples and the symbols and the writing is an infinite journey. So as you enter into the wonder and awe around all that we're going to experience here together today, the awe around this infiniteness, you're really opening your whole being and your awareness up to the vast magical expanses of your inner primordial goddess nature. So in this space, really allow your consciousness to be altered. This is the true path forward, to forget all we have known, to be curious like little children, unburdened by what we've been told and taught our whole lives, so we can really open up to perceiving reality in an entirely different way. So Egypt and Crete are perfect places for this type of exploration. So let's take a look. And I'm going to expand the PowerPoint here to full screen. There we go. Okay, so let's dive in to beautiful ancient Egypt. Now, this is the earliest known flower of life in the world. Now, the flower of life is this beautiful symbol of circles drawn, overlapping so that they form flowers, as you can see here on this slide. I know it's a little bit light, but that's how it is in the temple. It's because it's very ancient. And we see the flower of life in many different places all around the world, but this is the earliest dated one that we know. And so it's really powerful to think about how ancient Egypt is, how ancient Egypt really is, and how far back the history goes there, and how far back the people were connected to the original way of being. Now, here's a very interesting thing to consider as we look at the hieroglyphs. And this was something that stood out to me so strongly while we were there. Now, these on the right, these are earlier hieroglyphs. These are from at least 2000 BC, probably in many cases, when you see really finely delicate hieroglyphs like this, they can be much older than that. And you'll see that they are actually raised, and the negative space was removed from around them. Okay, so that takes a much higher level of craftsmanship and dedication to the craft, right, to the work. And you can see how fine and delicate these are. Now over here, down at the bottom on the left, these are the same hieroglyphs that this close-up is of. But on the top, these were later ones that were carved on top of the old. Now you can see how roughly done they are, and you can see that they are indented. Okay, they are just really, kind of roughly carved in without a lot of care. And so it's very interesting here as you see how the hieroglyphs shift and change over time from the very most ancient, and even from pre-hieroglyphics, which were very, very fine and delicate, to this more modern era hieroglyphic writing. Now, these are from about 500 BC or newer. This really demonstrates for us very clearly the shift from living from the heart in the really, really ancient times, right? 2000, 4000, 6000 BC or further back, to a place of, it's not even mind, it's more about ego, right? When we shift from the feminine to, it's not that we're shifting to the masculine, because the masculine and feminine are both sacred and both needed. But what is happening here, and of course this is what has happened in our world that we're experiencing so strongly today, is it's a shift to the distorted masculine, which is too far on the side of being ego driven. And I want to just say this here too, as I share about the beauty of the feminine and the goddess and the great mother, this is not in any way against men, okay, or against the masculine, because the true masculine is sacred and divine, and the feminine and masculine must be in balance together. But what we don't want to continue with is this distorted, ego-driven masculine, and that's what is running many of our governments and structures, and we're not going to get into all that, but as you know. So this is really a beautiful depiction, and a little bit frightening depiction as well, of that shift that happened at a certain point in ancient history. Okay, and as a result of that, women were treated worse. This is, women were burned at the stakes and as witches, as well as the men who were deemed to be involved with them, right? So we're not going to go far into that, but this is a very interesting depiction of that shift that has happened all around the world. Now, I want to say just a word here about the incredible architecture and astronomy and astrology and scientific advancement of the culture of ancient Egypt. Now, we don't know exactly when the Sphinx here and the Great Pyramids of Giza were constructed. Okay, there are all kinds of conversations about this. Some people say 4000 BC, some people say 10,500 BC, and anywhere in between. But they're extremely ancient. There is, if you want to find out more about this, the highly advanced technology and just how precisely these sandstone blocks weighing between 1 ton to 20 tons were moved from 40, 50, 80 miles away on the Nile River, brought down the Nile River, transported here and fit together so that you can't slide a piece of paper between them. Okay, and how the passageways within the pyramids are constructed at this very precise degree that's very consistent across the board within all the different structures. There's an amazing documentary that's called Great Pyramid K 2019 that will tell you many, many details about all that and the exact mathematical measurements and the physics of all of it. It's really fascinating. But what I want to say here is just that the technology, the understanding of the natural world, the understanding of the stars, the astrology, the astronomy that the ancient Egyptians carried was beyond anything that we can understand today. We can't explain how they moved those 20-ton sandstone or granite or limestone blocks. We can't understand. We don't know how they would have created something as massive as the Sphinx, and these structures have stood the test of time. They have stood climate change, all kinds of different natural disasters, and they're still standing. It's truly incredible. So we just want to, again, really affirm that the knowledge and the understanding of reality that these people had goes far beyond anything that we're capable of today or that we can understand today. So we want to really just, again, let go of all preconceived ideas about how the world works, how reality works, what is possible, what's not possible, as we venture into this today. To stand in the presence of these pyramids was just absolutely life-changing for me. The energy that they carry, the energy of standing near the Sphinx was absolutely incredible. So if you ever get a chance to go to Egypt, I highly recommend it. You will be forever changed. Now I have included here, she's not one of the Neteru or the deities, but this is Queen Hatshepsut. And she was a very powerful woman. And so we know that there are these certain cultures, ancient Egypt and Crete being two of them, where the feminine was really looked to as leaders, and where they were venerated and where they were held equal to men, right? Men and women both could be leaders, both could be priests and priestesses, both could make major decisions for the community, for the culture. So Queen Hatshepsut is one who we know historically confirmed that she was a female pharaoh. She was the 5th pharaoh of the 18th dynasty of Egypt. And this was in the around 1478 BC that she began ruling as pharaoh. And there is a temple to her, the temple of Hatshepsut, which is her burial temple, that is just incredible, extremely powerful. And so we know that various other women ruled, and there may have been female rulers even as early as 1600 years before Hatshepsut. So just want to presence that the feminine was very highly regarded, venerated, considered equal to the men. Men and women were ruling together at these very early times, right? We're making decisions together. Okay, so let's move into looking at 3 of the beautiful Egyptian Neteru. Now, when we speak about the Egyptian deities or the gods and goddesses, it's not exactly the right term to say god or goddess. The reason for this is that these beings, these divine beings, were not seen as ruling over the people or choosing the fate of the people, right? The way that we kind of think of gods doing. Instead, these beings are aspects of nature and aspects of ourselves. And so they were given the name Neteru, and that is the word that nature comes from. So by their very name, we know that they are part of the natural law. They are part of the natural world, just as we are, right? And they're here to guide us and they're here to help us. Now, this is an image of the sky goddess Nut. And hopefully you can see her well, her whole being here on the screen. Now, I'll show you a few more images of her so you can get the full idea. But she arches over the top of the sky. She is the sky. Her body is the sky. And every night at sunset, she eats the sun. So you can see the sun here by her mouth. That would be at nighttime. The sun travels through her body, and the light from the sun shines through her, creating the stars that we see at night. And the sun travels through her body, and she gives birth to the sun again at dawn every morning. So this is an extremely powerful image and depiction of the feminine as holding space for the entire cosmos. And you can see here, so this is an example of an Egyptian astrological ceiling. And so these beings here are representing the different Neteru as well as the different stars and constellations. And she is holding all of this within herself, holding all of this within her body. And everywhere that you go in Egypt, the ceilings are dark navy blue with these beautiful gold stars. And that is always a reminder of Nut. It is always a reminder to look up and remember that she is there and she's holding space for all of this, all of creation to occur. Now, very interesting in the Egyptian culture. So in most cultures around the world, we see the earth as being the feminine, the goddess, and the cosmos as being the masculine. But this is the reverse in Egypt. So this is her husband. This is the god Nut. And here's another depiction of him here. And she is here in the sky, right? So in this view, in this perception of the world, the mother is the cosmos and the father is the earth. So it's very fascinating to see because this is so different than in most other ancient lineages. And it's really powerful to think of it in this way. Here is how Nut was often depicted in the tombs. Okay, and this is a very astrological ceiling here, where these figures here, many of them are representing stars and constellations, but you can see she is here, right? And she is here. She's arcing over the sky. Again, she's holding all of this within herself, within her being. I'm going to just look at my notes here and make sure I'm telling you everything about Nut. So one important piece that I want to be sure to not forget is just to note that the ancient Egyptian temples were always constructed to be in alignment with the stars. And particularly, they were constructed to be in alignment with the circumpolar stars. Now, these are the stars that you see in the northern sky, such as the Big Dipper, from the northern hemisphere perspective, that are in the sky all year round. They never go away. In the ancient view, they never go into the underworld. One other aspect that we see the Egyptian temples aligned to, I'm going to go back, is that the three pyramids of Giza are aligned with the belt stars in the constellation Orion. And some theories state that the Sphinx, which points directly east, was built at a very ancient time, 10,500 BC, at a specific time when Regulus would have been rising, would have had its heliacal rising. Regulus is the main star in the constellation Leo the Lion, would have had its heliacal rising on the equinox at this specific time frame, very, very long ago. That's one theory. But what we know for sure is that when a new temple or a new pyramid was to be built, that the pharaoh at the time would consult with the goddess Seshet, and they would have what's called a stretching of the cord ceremony. And this is where the cords would be stretched out in alignment with Sechet's instructions to have the temple aligned with a certain constellation or certain stars, very specifically chosen for that temple. So the Egyptians were paying a lot of attention to the sky, a lot of attention to the constellations, and the meaning and the mythology that was written in those stars. So again, this having these astronomical ceilings in the tombs was related to that. It was related to the immortality of the king, that the king, even after his physical body died, his eternal spirit would travel to these circumpolar stars and live forever, just as the stars do. Now, this is an image of Nut in the temple of Dendera, which we'll go and look a little more at in a second here. I just wanted you to see the detail and beauty of the hieroglyphs. Some of the hieroglyphs you see and you're just blown away by the detail and the level of dedication and intentionality that goes into them. Now, this is a little tiny piece of the large rectangular zodiac that you see in the entrance hall, in the hypostyle hall in Dendera. This is Capricorn right here, actually. But just look at this beautiful depiction of Nut here. You can see the scarab beetle here on her arm, the Khepera scarab. So the Milky Way is what Nut represents as well, right? So she is the whole cosmos, but when we look up and see the Milky Way, that is the light of the sun shining through Nut as it moves across the sky, right? So Nut is the Milky Way, and the Milky Way was critically important to the ancient Egyptians because they believed and they could see how it mirrored their Nile River on the ground. So everything in Egypt was created with the concept of as above, so below. And so they saw that the Milky Way was like a mirror for the Nile River, right? And they saw both of these as the lifeblood of their community. The Nile River was absolutely critical because there's no rain, or there's almost no rain in Egypt. So the Nile River was their only water source, and the Nile River gets very low, and there are times of drought, especially in the hottest times of the year. So when the Nile River floods once again, which happens around the end of July in ancient times, it was a time when there was much prayer and much celebration. Isis and the star Sirius were involved with this, right? Because that was the heliacal rising of Sirius was when the floods would come again. And so this was a time that was critically important to their culture, that these floods would come, that the water would come back, that they could then plant their crops again, and that everything would grow and the people would have the water that they needed. So Nut in the heavens is mirroring this sacred life force of the Nile on the ground, as above, so below. Okay, so next we're going to look at some beautiful depictions of the mother goddess Hathor. So Hathor, you see her here. She has cow ears. She is the great cow goddess. And as you can see in this picture, her face is created in the shape of the woman's reproductive system. So she is the womb from which all things can be and will be created. This is Hathor. And she is perhaps the most ancient goddess of ancient Egypt. It's interesting because Nut can also be depicted as a cow at times because she is the Milky Way, right? Because she's perceived to hold the cosmic milk that nourishes all beings. But Hathor was the first to be in the cow form. Isis is also sometimes shown as the cow. We'll talk about the sacred cow in just a minute here. But she is the oldest Egyptian deity. And so here we see Dendera, which I showed to you a bit earlier, and you can see the Hathor faces here on the columns. And as you go inside, these faces are around all four sides of every column. It's really striking. It's extremely beautiful. I have another picture of that here that you will see. So this current version of Dendera that we can visit was built around 350 BC. But as I mentioned, that's very recent as far as ancient Egypt is concerned. The older versions of it may be as ancient as 8,000 BC or even older. Now here is Hathor as the sacred cow. And this is an image of the king or the pharaoh suckling from the cow, Hathor. So this is really important in relation to the Milky Way, which I was just mentioning, right? So the heavenly ocean where all life began, the primeval waters that stretch above us and also are in the earth, in the oceans. This is something that we see in many, many ancient cultures all around the world, this idea of the primeval waters where all life began. And it is reminiscent of the primordial ocean, which we know scientifically that is where all life began. Now, also in many cultures, these primeval waters were manifest in the form of a cow, a great cow nourishing the world with her rain milk. And this is what we see here embodied and personified in Hathor. So we see this already fully formed in the Neolithic times, which were between 8,000 to 4,000 BC. And we see this all around the world. So here's the depiction of it in ancient Egypt. And the cow's belly, again, in many cultures, forms the sky through which the sun travels during the day, during the night, as we already saw with Newt. The hieroglyph for Hathor is this hieroglyph right here. It's a square box with the Horus hawk inside. Now, Horus is the mythological king and the sun god. He is the son of Isis and Osiris, and he represents the highest consciousness of the Egyptian people. So the four sides of this box here represent the four cardinal directions of the universe, the four cardinal points of the universe. And it also represents the ordered structure of creation. So the beauty of the physical form. And this physical form is bounded on all sides by the mother goddess who gives us life, right? And who sustains and nourishes the life within with her eternal milk. And so from this womb, we can birth Horus, the highest consciousness. We can birth all things. So this hieroglyph is really beautiful. It has this extremely deep meaning. So if you ever see this square with another square inside, the small square is often painted red, right? That is for the life force, the blood, the mother. And then Horus is within it as well. So here's another sacred cow. This was actually, this cow was on the wall in Hatshepsut's temple. It's a beautiful, beautiful cow. And you can see that the pendant around its neck has the Hathor face on it. This cow also has the sun disk between its horns. Really beautiful. And here is an image of Hathor from Hatshepsut's temple as well. Both of these images were from there. And again, just notice the beauty. Notice the dedication from those who carved these hieroglyphs and these sculptures. See the delicateness of her cow ears of this Hathor, the delicateness of her lips, the delicateness of this beautiful cow's eye, right? It's really incredible. Just like feel that, drink that in. So powerful. Here are more cows. This was a really beautiful painting of 8 cows inside the tomb of Nefertari in the Valley of the Queens. And again, just see how beautiful. And they each have their own name. So the cows here, I can't read the names for you, but these hieroglyphs above each cow indicate the name of that particular cow. So you can see the cows were just so venerated and held so dear. Now inside Dendera, in the first hall that you go into, that's a hippo-style hall with all of these huge, you can see one here, huge pillars with the face of Hathor on all 4 sides of them. So this zodiac, it's a rectangular zodiac. It's not the Dendera zodiac that you usually see, if you hear of that term, that is circular. This is a rectangular zodiac. And it tells of the rise and then the fall and then the rise of mankind in one theory. But it is a beautiful depiction of the signs of the zodiac. So on this view, you can see the kind of tail end of Scorpio here. So here's Scorpio, here's Sagittarius, and here's Capricorn on the end. This here is a bull that represents Set, and Horus is holding him in check here. So there's a lot more going on here than just the constellations of the zodiac, but they are there. And this is a really beautiful depiction of the beginning time. Now, it's interesting in this rectangular zodiac, Hathor is here, but she's upside down from the way the pictures are drawn, right? So very interesting. It's like, which there's no up, there's no down, above is the below, you know, it's all one. But here is Hathor being born from the sun. This is Nut. You can't see her right now, but Nut is up here. The zigzag line is her body. And we have here Isis in her cow form. And here's Osiris, and here's their son Horus. So this is a beautiful image of the beginning times. And that's what we're connecting with here, right? It's called, in Egypt, the beginning time was called Zep Tepi. It was when everything began. And in one theory, it said that the Great Pyramids of Giza and the Sphinx were built to honor the beginning times. So now, let's connect with Isis, the great mother goddess Isis. So here's a beautiful papyrus of the goddess Isis, and you can tell it's her because she will have a throne on her head. And her name in the hieroglyphs nearby will have an egg. We'll usually have an egg and a throne, but here we can see the egg and have the feather in it and the throne on her head. So here she is with her wings up. Now she is our great protector. And actually, I'm going to read to you from this incredible book. It's called The Myth of the Goddess by Anne Baring. Has a beautiful description of Isis in all of her different forms. So she says, Isis was the greatest goddess in Egypt and was worshipped for over 3,000 years, from the pre-dynastic times before 3000 BC until the 2nd century AD, when her cult and many of her images passed directly on to the figure of Mary. Her sphere was not confined to Egypt, for during that time she crossed boundaries of culture, race, and nation, reaching Greece, spreading throughout the Roman Empire, even to the borders of the Danube and the Rhine. She lasted so long that the evolution of consciousness can be seen reflected in the different ways she was conceived and honored. Isis was variously the milk-giving cow goddess, the goddess of the serpents of the primeval waters, the star goddess Sirius, who brought the floods of the Nile every summer, the fertile pig goddess, the bird goddess, goddess of the underworld, whose breath gave life to the dead, goddess of the tree of life, offering the food and water of immortality, goddess of the words of power, the tender, caring mother of Horus, her son, and the goddess of the throne, upon whose sovereign lap the king sat as her infant child in the image of all humanity. And she's very human. She, at times in the mythology, is sobbing and crying when her husband Osiris has been killed and she cannot find him, or she cannot find the parts of his body that Set scattered. And she struggles to raise her son in this time when the forces are against her at certain points, right? So she's very real. She really can help us as mothers to understand some of the trials that we need to go through, and she helps us to carry on. Now here she is in a tomb with her wings down. This is in the tomb of Ramses III, and her wings are down. Whenever the wings are down, either of the hawk or the kite birds or Isis or her sister Nephthys, the wings down indicate that time and movement have stopped. So this is, I believe this is over top of the sarcophagus of Ramses III, indicating that all has stopped for him now. But always in ancient Egypt, he will be reborn. His Ba will fly free. We see here on either side of her Anubis and Wepowet, the two dogs that guard the entrance to the underworld. These are two images of Isis at the temple that is in honor to her in Philae. This is on the front wall. As going in, you can see that she has the vulture crown on her head and also the horns representing the sacred cow with the sun disk in the center, just as we saw on that cow at Hatshepsut's temple. And here again, she has that same with the throne on top, with the cobra here. This is on the side wall, also on the outside wall of another outside wall of Philae. And here's her son Horus, the king. Now here she is with Osiris, and very frequently she's depicted behind Osiris, supporting him, holding space for him. Now you can see here, her wings are wrapped around him, right? And in this one, it's like she's holding space for him from behind. He's in his mummy form in both of these. So the story of Isis and Osiris is that their brother Set was jealous of her or jealous of them. And so he killed Osiris and cut his body into either 14 or 42 pieces, depending on which story it is, and strew him all about ancient Egypt. And Osiris, weeping, went out and had to find the pieces of her dead husband and gather them together and put him back together. And in this image, this is in Abydos. This is a very, very sacred and beautiful image in Abydos in the hieroglyphs. With the help of Thoth or Tehuti, who you see down here, he has the ibis head. Isis has put the pieces of Osiris back together. And she is bringing him back to life, and she becomes the kite bird. So you can see that she's hovering over him, and she is conceiving their child Horus. Now, after this, after he is resurrected, Osiris goes on to become the god of the underworld. But he is also the god of the agriculture and of the life that comes up from the earth, the same as the god Geb, right? They are the green man, and Osiris is often shown as green. Now, there's also two kite birds on either side of this image here. Oops. And this is Isis and her sister Nephthys. Now she's shown twice here, but this is Isis and Nephthys holding space. You will often see both of them with their wings around Osiris, holding space for his resurrection. And I have a close-up of the one kite bird here at the feet. Really, really beautiful imagery. And you can see the cobras here are holding space. The cobras as the life force energy coming back into Osiris. This is an image from across the water, Philae, the temple dedicated to Isis. Okay, so there's so much more we could share about Egypt, but we're going to move into Crete now. Let me just check the chat and see if I'm missing anything. How to know when we see a cow, if it's Hathor, Nut, or Isis. Well, there are different signs you can look for. Like I said, if it's Isis, she will usually have the throne in a hieroglyph nearby or the egg. Sometimes it's really hard to tell. And I am not an Egyptologist and I am just beginning to learn these things. But there usually is a description around them in the hieroglyphs that will let you know. Okay, so let's move on. Let's look at magical Crete. So here's a picture of the Palace of Knossos, which is one of the buildings that is still standing in Crete. And we know that humans were in Crete at least since the Neolithic period, and that's somewhere around 8,000 to 4,000 BC. So humans were living on the island of Crete. They had navigated there somehow by boats, probably using wooden boats from mainland Greece, possibly from northern Africa, where Egypt sprung up. And so people were there, humans were there since very, very ancient times. Now, the Minoan civilization is the civilization that built these structures here and that we know the most about. And this was on the island of Crete, flourishing from about 300 BC to about 1450 BC. But of course, got its beginnings much further back than that. And so then after a period of decline, it finally was completely dissolved by about 1100 BC. And most of the existing palaces and temples on Crete, like the one that you see here at Knossos, were built around 1900 BC. Now, what we need to keep in mind is this was at the height of the civilization. So they were rebuilding from previous natural disasters. They were also rebuilding to kind of upgrade, to beautify their cities. And so just like Dendera and the other temples in Egypt, there are many layers of history below what we see in the structures that are, you know, readily available to our eyes in Crete today. Now, there were two types of writing that were used in Minoan times, Linear A and Cretan hieroglyphs. Neither of these have yet been deciphered. We do have Linear B, which the Mycenaeans who came in are starting around 1450 BC and kind of, you know, took over the culture of the island from that point on. We understand Linear B, it evolved into Greek, but we still cannot decipher about 80% of Linear A or the Cretan hieroglyphs. So this is Linear A, two images of it over here. And these are Cretan hieroglyphs. So very fascinating that these still have not been deciphered. You know, in ancient Egypt, we have a really good understanding of the hieroglyphs. Not all of them are completely understandable, and we might even need a different level of consciousness to fully comprehend, but we can read them and we know many of the deeper meanings that they hold. But in Crete, there's a lot of mystery because we can't read the most ancient forms of writing. So what do we have? What do we have to learn from, to learn how the culture was and the way of life and the spiritual beliefs of the people? Well, we have, for one thing, these beautiful gold signet rings, which have really detailed illustrations of rituals or different aspects of life or aspects of the goddess or aspects of the culture. And I have a quote here from The Myth of the Goddess, the book I just showed you earlier, which says, "The art in Crete cannot be separated from ritual, nor ritual from the unseen dimension that informs all life." So there's this really beautiful spirit that animates all the artwork that we see in Crete. And you can see it here. You can just see like the animation, the energy coming up from the people. There's this epiphany gesture with the hands raised, which I'll talk about in a few minutes, that you will see in many of these images here. This is a Mycenaean gold ring showing the tree of life and scenes of initiation into the afterlife. And so as described in the Myth of the Goddess book, there are, let's see, there's this figure here is beckoning these two figures to come over to this side of the tree. And from there, they will meet this griffin figure. See the griffin over here? And they will be invited to ascend the trunk of the tree up to where this lion god is waiting, right? And there's much more, there's a great amount of detail about this particular gold ring in the Myth of the Goddess. I highly recommend that book for anyone who wants to learn more. I'm not going to go too deeply into it, but it's this ascensional journey, right? Come over to this side of the tree and then ascend into the afterlife. And you can see there's great magic in this. So the Cretan art, and this is a fresco from Crete, actually from the island civilization of Akhotiri. And so the Cretan art reflects really the beauty and abundance of nature and a reverence for the natural world. And it recalls the vitality of the cave paintings of the Paleolithic era with the animal imagery. And again, like very animated animals and plant life. So this is an image of two swallows and flowers nearby. This is called the Spring Fresco. And it's from this late Bronze Age site of Akhotiri. And it's considered to be one of the first paintings of a nature scene in Egyptian art history. And this is dated about 1600 BC. So again, you can see the spirit here, like the real beauty and awe and wonder of nature. that is expressed through these paintings. Here's another fresco. This is the dolphin fresco. And it indicates the seafaring lifestyle of the Cretan people, but also their honoring of the wildlife in the sea. This is from about 1950 BC. I think this fish down here is really funny. He's just going straight down to the bottom of the sea. But you can see this, the detail of the dolphins, right? They clearly felt a love and a kinship with the dolphins here, with that level of detail and how beautifully they're depicted. So the most important Minoan deity, we don't know her name, but she's the goddess who is the personification of nature. This says unnamed there, but actually she probably did have a name, but it's in linear A or in the Cretan hieroglyphs, so we probably just don't know what that is yet. Now these statues are called Karfi goddesses, and they have the upraised arms of the epiphany gesture. They also have attached bird symbols and horns of consecration. You can see here again the sacred cow, the sacred horns. One other thing that's important to note is in much of the Paleolithic and Neolithic imagery, the horns of the cow represent the fallopian tubes, right? The female reproductive system. They also represent the crescent moon, right? So all this, the moon, the bull or the cow, the feminine, the womb, all of this is like one and the same, right? And it is this life, death, and rebirth continuous cycle that the ancients were always noticing is demonstrated all around us in the natural world. Now, interestingly, this epiphany gesture looks just like the Egyptian hieroglyph for the ka. So the ka is related to the bull or the cow. It's related to fertility, right? And creation from consciousness, self, soul, spirit, essence of who we are, and raising up to higher consciousness. So very powerful to see these images that are echoed from one culture to another to another. These are universal to us, right? These are very deep in our psyche and really important to remember. Now, the epiphany gesture in Crete is believed to denote this idea of revelation or inspiration that comes upon us, right? Probably when we're out in nature looking at these beautiful birds and flowers and things. But it is this moment of revelation, this moment of epiphany. And it's that spirit at the heart of how the Cretans seem to see the natural world and what their goddess embodied. Really beautiful. Here are some more of the gold rings. So if you have a chance, if you're interested, just Google Mycenaean or Minoan gold rings. They're really fascinating to look at. These are goddesses under the olive tree. There's also this double axe symbol here, which has deep meaning. It's related to the butterfly. It is related to the life, death, rebirth cycle. Here's one with all of these goddesses in the gesture of epiphany, as we saw on the previous slide. This one is a seated goddess being served by 4 animal beings. I found a couple of sources that said that she's being served by seahorses. So that's interesting. I don't know if that's true. That's why I have the question marks. There's also a bird behind the throne here. The bird and the goddess being very, very deeply interconnected in Crete. So these rings they're just, again, like the expression of them, right? The emotion that you feel from how these images, these figures are depicted. It's really beautiful. Now, the Melissae were the oracular bee goddesses of ancient Crete. So very fascinating. In the mythology, Apollo says that he learned the art of divination from 3 bee goddesses. Okay, and so this idea of the goddess and her oracular nature, her divinatory way of being as coming from the bees is extremely ancient. So as it says here, the humming of the bee was said to be the voice of the goddess, the very sound of creation itself. So we have here a Greek silver coin. This is a more recent, 390 to 300 BC, but you can see the bee is still very honored at that time. And these are gold plaques from 700 BC with winged bee goddesses. So this is a a really beautiful symbol. We also see drawings of beehives in the linear A writing. So we can't understand what it says around them, but we can see that there are beehives there. So that indicates how important bees were to this culture since its beginning times, that the beehive is actually included as a symbol in the structure of the writing. And so the bee was very connected with this endless cycle of life, death, and rebirth that the goddess embodies. Let's see. Okay. So this is all that I am sharing with you for this part here, but we're going to move into a shamanic journey very soon. And yes, I can make a copy of the slides available. Absolutely. There's so much beauty in these images. And there's so much deeper we could go. But what I want to share with you next before we go to the shamanic journey is an invitation for all of you. So let me share my screen here. So I am just incredibly inspired upon coming back from Egypt and all that I learned there, and diving into the goddesses, the ancient goddess, and the importance of reconnecting with her, right? The importance for all of us. And this is not just for women, right? This is men and women, all who feel called to reconnect with her. And so I have created this new program that's called From the Underworld to the Starry Heights, the Great Goddesses of Earth and Sky, that will be starting on March 18th. So I want to share this with you and share an invitation to come and join me, where we can go much deeper into all of this and into the goddesses from many different cultures. Egypt and Crete for sure, but many others as well. Now, if you would like to come and check out this page, I'll put this in the comments on Zoom. I can't put it in the comments on YouTube yet, but once I get a chance to, it will be in the description of YouTube if you just scroll down a little bit after the live is done. So on Zoom, if you want to check out this page, you can go there. I just put it in the chat if you want to look at it at your own pace. And you can come here and read. I love this quote from Hafiz. I wish I could show you when you are lonely or in darkness, the astonishing light of your own being. And this is what we're going to be opening back up for you in this program, right? Because we hold within us already the energies, the wisdom, the prowess, the fierceness of the great goddesses of old. And we are longing to reanimate, reactivate that within ourselves. And I'm sure many of you have already done a lot of work on that. And I want to help you to go even deeper, right? To remember the songs and chants and spells, to reestablish the intimate brotherhood and sisterhood with the animals, to hear the voices of the plants once again, to read the messages written in the crackling stars, right? So how do we return to this starting point? How do we return to the knowledge, the understanding of reality that we had at the time of Zep Tepi? I'm going to scroll down a little bit more. I want to invite you to connect for a moment with Goddess Isis, okay? So Goddess Isis, maker of magic, speaker of spells, eternally guarded by her tribe of loyal scorpions. She who suffered heartbreak just as the mortal women do, who resurrected her husband, who challenged the sun god Ra. She did not hesitate. She did not hold back. She knew her mission clearly, and she embraced the hardships that came along as portals to transformation, right? So here is a question for you. How might you embody Isis? So just close your eyes for a moment. Envision Isis, the great goddess, the great mother standing before you. How does she hold her fierce shoulders as she stands there? At what angle does she tilt her head? How does the light sparkle in her eye? How can you mirror her energy, mirror the essence of her being? And how can you act as she did and as she does today? How can you become her? And so the potentials are infinite for us when we step into embodying and becoming the goddess herself. So this class is designed to help you become very familiar with some of the most ancient goddesses from the original times. Those who initiated the eternal balance of earth and heaven and knew how to hold it in place. those who understood how to weave the weft and warp of reality with magic and chaos and peace to raise all of life up to its highest potential. Those who guided and protected us before the corruption, before the silencing of the feminine, when the very first temples were being built in alignment with the stars, before the witches were burned, before the doubt and hesitation crept into our hearts and our voices. And we're going to allow Great Mother Isis to lead our embodiment adventure. Isis wants to be a part of this with us. And many of the goddesses want to come and work with us, right? To channel through us. And so I want to really open these possibilities up for you in this class. Because what we're meant to uncover here, it's far deeper, it's far more profound and way out there in the possibilities, in the realm of possibilities than what our human minds, our 21st century human perception can grasp onto. So we're going to begin each class in this course by invoking Isis and allowing her to lay the mysteries out on the table for us. And so this is the invitation to immerse ourselves in the ancient art, the temples, the writings, to become infused with the wisdom and deep knowing from times long ago, and to really feel the ancient goddess within you. So you can come here and read. These are the benefits of the class. This is what you will experience when you attend. And I want to move ahead to show you the curriculum of this program. So it's really important for you to know. Okay, let me continue sharing. I'm sorry for that interruption, and hope everybody can join back on. Technical difficulties. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for popping back on here. So, in this program, the Great Goddesses of Earth and Sky, class 1 will be to cover our primordial nature, the goddesses of the beginning times. So we're going to study the very most ancient goddesses, including an exploration of the art inside the Chavot and Lesso caves, where we honored our shamanic connection with the animals, the earth, and the sky. And we're going to look at the shamanic role of women in the Neolithic period, and the bird tree snake goddess, which is an extremely powerful figure that we see across many different cultures, and the Lady of the Beasts, which you see depicted in this image here, and so much more. Of course, in every class, we'll have a really profound shamanic journey that may be a chakra activation in some of the classes. It may be a movement practice in other classes, will be extremely powerful. So in this case, it will be a shamanic chakra activation and movement journey to awaken the primordial goddess within you. Then class 2 will be about the dragon and serpent goddesses. So this will be an exploration of the life force within us that is waiting to be awakened, and ancient understandings of this essential aspect of our energy and the life force of the human being. And we'll look at ley lines, dragon lines, serpent lines, the energetic life force of Mama Gaia. And we'll look at these very fascinating serpent and dragon goddesses: Tiamat, the primordial Babylonian serpent goddess; Nuwa, a Chinese creator goddess; and Cora, the great serpent goddess of Ireland and Scotland. And a shamanic journey to be swallowed by the snake or dragon and become one with it, to awaken the fire of your creative life force. Then in class 3, we'll dive into ancient Egypt, because I have so much more to share with you from there. We'll look at hieroglyphs as portals to a very different way of perceiving reality, and the importance of water to conduct the energy flow in the temples, as well as the artwork and writing and artifacts related to the sisters Isis and Nephthys, as well as the goddess Ma'at, the scorpion goddess Selket, and Seshet, who assisted the pharaohs in aligning their temples with the stars. Then in class 4, we'll dive into the great goddesses of Sumeria and Crete. So we'll go way deeper into the Melissae and the bees and the honey. And also we'll look at the great goddess Inanna, the queen of heaven, and her consort Dumuzi. We'll look at the exquisite poetry describing their courtship. It's really incredibly beautiful and profound. And we'll also journey with Inanna into the underworld. And we'll look at the importance of the underworld journey. This is a very shamanic aspect of who we are and something that is necessary for our evolution as human beings, as individuals, and also the collective, right? To go through the underworld journey, much like we are experiencing now in our world. And then class 5, we will walk with the Native American goddesses. These are so very near and dear to my heart. We'll look at how to awaken the ancient reciprocal connection with the earth in your own life through offerings and prayer and ritual upon the land. And we'll explore the roles of corn woman, Pachamama, the mother of all time and space, changing woman, who is the mysterious deep nature of the feminine, fierce, and she never stays the same. This is how we are, right? The feminine energy. And also Ixchel, the jaguar goddess of the moon. We'll experience a shamanic embodiment journey to go within a mountain or volcano to find the sacred indigenous treasure the earth has kept hidden for you. And then our final class will be class 6, and we will dive into a study of the Hindu and yogic goddesses. So we'll connect with Shiva and Shakti as energetic forces who exist in eternal ecstatic union, and they transcend yet include all aspects of reality. And we'll also study other Hindu goddesses such as Parvati, Saraswati, and Durga. And our journey for this class will be a journey into Bhuvaneshwari, the goddess of infinite space and the great cosmic womb. And you'll be consecrated in a special ritual held by your unique council of goddesses from around the world. And this is what I really want for you to take away from this program. I'm going to scroll back up here for just a second, is to connect with certain goddesses who have a deep resonance for you that will really stand out to you, from one from this class, maybe one from this class, one from this class, that you know you want to continue working with. Okay, and really allow them to come into you, really allow yourself to embody them, not just while we're in the class doing the practice, but going out and walking as them in your life, really speaking as them. When a difficult decision or a difficult situation comes up, I often think, how would Isis handle this, right? What would she do? How would she see this in a way that's very different than how I'm perceiving it right now, that will allow for a whole new level of breakthrough? So this will really allow you to stop the hesitation, right? Stop the last bit of doubt, shame, or guilt that's been clinging to you, and really embrace life, to really live with passion and freedom in all that you do, and be able to take action in ways that you never dreamed possible before. This is what the goddess offers to us. And again, she wants to flow through us. The different goddesses want to come in and inspire each of us in unique and individual ways, so we can really shift and change. So as I said here, the goddesses are dreaming us, protecting us, encouraging us, and longing to speak through us to help us shift the entire trajectory of our world at this time, so we can survive and thrive during the initiations, so we can continually return to a calm, clear center of balance, so we can ignite the revolution that Mother Earth requires at this time. So I want to share with you then, let me scroll down here to the investment. So this course, there's so much research and devotion that I'm going to be putting into this. So the regular price would be $777. And I was planning to offer it at this early bird price, $444, but I really feel so aligned with the donation-based structure that we've been using recently in Sacred Planet. So I want to offer this on a donation basis. So you can come here. Let me put the link in the chat again. If you would like to join, all donations are welcome. Okay, so just come to this page that I just put in the chat once again and scroll down, and you will be able to come here and just click on the donate button. Send whatever amount feels aligned for your heart and soul. I don't want the price to be a barrier, right? But I'm going to be putting so much into this. So I invite you to send whatever feels right for you, right? Maybe it's the early bird price. Maybe it's a lesser amount because that's what you're able to give at this time. I want everyone that feels the call to be able to be a part of this. So this is going to be open for registration only until March 15th. That's Monday. But I think it's a pretty easy decision. If you feel called, you just know, right? You just know. If you scroll down on this page a little bit more, that's me at Dendera. See the Hathor faces on all four sides of the pillars. It was so incredibly beautiful there. You can see some testimonials from others who have taken my courses recently. Read through those if it will help you make your decision. And I'm going to scroll back up and leave the screen for just a second on this poem here. So we're going to go to the shamanic journey in just a minute. I want to check the chat and see if anybody has any questions so far. Thank you, Deborah. Wonderful. I know, Brittany. I was like, no too. I couldn't believe it. Yeah, I'm sorry about the disruption in the connection. My computer has been doing this thing where it dies when it's not all the way down to 0 battery. So I guess I should have come inside a couple minutes earlier. So sorry about the disruption there, but thank you all for hopping back on. I'm glad you're able to rejoin. Does anybody have any questions about the class? I will do a bigger Q&A at the end. There will be a replay. Yeah, I will have 2 recordings here. I'm gonna have to put the 2 recordings together and then I will send it out to all of you. Here's the link again. Oh, what time? Yeah, let me tell you about that. Okay, there you go. So if you come back to that link, you can just check it out, you know, read the page, read the curriculum, see if it feels aligned for you. And if it does, come and join me. I would love to have you in the class, everybody. So here's when the classes will be held. They will be on Thursdays at 10 a.m. New York time, and they'll be 90 to 120 minutes in length. Now that will be the live Zoom calls. And so during every call, we will venture into these spaces and other realms together. We will connect with the goddesses. There will be some time for Q&A and for you to share about your experience during each class. And every class will be recorded. So even if you can't attend live, or maybe you can attend some of them live, but not all of them, I will send the recordings out to all registered students afterwards. So as long as you have donated and registered for the class, you will get the recordings afterwards, absolutely. Let me see what other questions there might be. Yay, Annika, welcome. So glad you'll be joining. That is fantastic. Yes, the jaguar goddess Ixchel. There's Sachet also is a jaguar goddess. She wears the jaguar robe. So we'll talk about that, and that she's in ancient Egypt. Somebody is asking, hold on, let me go back here. If we're going to mention Kuan Yin. Kuan Yin is not part of the class. No, there are so many amazing ancient goddesses to choose from. I don't have Kuan Yin as part of the class, but I feel like there will be more goddess classes in the future because I'm so excited about this topic. So she may be in a future one. Okay, well, let's go to the shamanic journey. I don't want to keep you waiting too much longer for that. And if you are, if you're thinking about the class, if you've already joined, wonderful and welcome. I can't wait to work with you. If you haven't joined and you're thinking about it, I'll put this link in the chat one more time. Just keep this open on your computer, check it out, dream into it. Just sense into whether it feels right for you. And if it does, I would love to have you there. Okay, so let me share a beautiful image that I found for you all of this. I see her as the universal goddess. And okay, this is going to be a shamanic, let me turn on my video for one more second. This is going to be a shamanic movement journey. So wherever you are, I invite you to get up and clear a little bit of space so you can move around. So you're going to be embodying the primordial goddess at the beginning time of creation. I'm going to give you a link to some incredibly beautiful music from Celestial. That is, it's dance music. It's very activating. It starts out at the beginning a little bit calmer, and then it becomes very activating. So this will be perfect for the journey. Now, let me just share with you some words for what this journey will be about. Okay. And I invite you to either close your eyes as you listen to this, to my words, or gaze at this beautiful goddess image on the screen and let these words permeate your being. This is where I'm inviting you to journey to. And once I finish reading this, go to the link in the chat, click on it, and begin playing the music and begin journeying. And when the music is over, I just put that link in the chat there. When the music is over, just bring your attention back to the webinar. Okay, so close your eyes or gaze lightly at this image here and just listen in. You are the primordial goddess emerging from the cosmic egg. You are the original force of creation. You embody the Earth Mother. You change as rapidly as the moon. All things can and will be birthed from you. You are Hathor. You are Isis. You are the original Shakti. You are the bee goddess. You are Nut. You are the creative energy from which all subsequent goddesses evolved. So emerge from that cosmic egg now, goddess, and dance. Pulse the creative life force out from your heart. Let your movements form all of creation. Stomp your foot and see entire mountain ranges raising up. Cry your tears and let the water fill the oceans with life. Laugh from your heart and soul and see that bright bouncing children are born. You are the act of creation. You are returning to us, goddess. We need you now. Dance for the future of all life on our sacred planet. So go ahead and click on that Celestial Bandcamp link now and go ahead and have a beautiful, beautiful dance and movement journey. Enjoy. Welcome back, everybody. Starting to come back now to your current moment in time. Welcome back. Beginning to open your eyes, come back to your computer. Now, if you have a journal or a notebook handy, go ahead and open that up and write down anything that feels really important that came through during this movement journey. Go ahead and just note down any messages from the goddess within you, from the life force of creation, anything that feels important. And if you would like to share about your journey, please do. You can share in the chat, or if anybody would like to, let me stop sharing here. If anybody would like to raise your hand and come on over and share with the group, that would be wonderful. Hi, Andy. Oh, yay. Welcome. So glad that you joined. I'd be so glad to have you in the goddess class. Wonderful. So yeah, feel free to share in the chat about your journey, about your movement journey. And also if anybody would like to raise your hand, you go to, there may just be a raise hand icon, or it may be under reactions, or it may be under participants. So Zoom is changing and updating all the time, so I never know. Okay, Deborah, let me bring you over to share. And if you want to share, you'll be able to turn on your video once I bring you over here. So,
hi.
Welcome.
Oh, hi. I look so horrible. I haven't gotten even my makeup on yet, but I don't even care.
Oh, you look
I want to just say thank you, Jocelyn. Again, a fantastic webinar and the information. And all I want to do, because during that whole dance, I was thinking about how much history we just don't know about. I went to Europe 6 times, never been to Egypt, unfortunately, but South America, I've traveled quite a bit of the world, but my God, you know, I was there and I was always awestruck, especially when I was 9 and 11 years old, at how much history they live, eat, breathe, drink in every day. And we don't see that in North America. And how much history is untold in our times of peril right now. I'm learning about, you know, ancient European history and how it's affecting us today. And I'm just so much in awe about how we can journey to ancient Egypt and mimic or associate the symbolism of every animal, every ankh, every star, just like I'm right now in the middle of connecting a lot of dots. And I just find that when you look back into history, the answers have always been right in front of our noses.
Yes.
The answers are right there. And we are just too brainwashed, computer dumbed down with our games, our war games, that nobody seems to want to look at the truth anymore. And I'm in this state of awe, you know, looking at Giza and just, you know, all of the symbolism and the wealth of knowledge. And you are, sister, an old soul in a 30-year-old body, because you can articulate like no other that I've ever heard. And I've gone to university, I've been inspired by professors, but your worth to me, Jocelyn, is so much more superior than anything I've ever seen in a university class. And you're offering this as on a donation basis. I mean, I just hope that the people realize the wealth that you bring to our lives.
Thank you for saying that. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. And so thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for your reflection on how much more, I love what you said at the beginning there, how much more history there is that we don't even know, right? And that was the feeling I had in the temples in Egypt, like standing in Dendera, but knowing there's probably 8 or 10 layers below this of deeper mysteries and history than we even know how to get to, right? But this is the journey right now, is to remember as much as we can, right? And to go deeply into this journey of like reconnecting with those extremely ancient times. So yeah.
And I believe you are a Scorpio as well, right?
My moon is in Scorpio, yes,
Okay.
and it's my 12th.
I don't know much about astrology, but I know that people in my circle who are Scorpios are always intrigued by mystery and always want to be looking. I used to watch Law and Order to no end, and I used to be pretty darn good at the end of those shows knowing who done it, you know. And we're of, huh?
Yeah, the deeper layers. Yes.
Yeah, like let's explore. Don't take anything at surface level. If I can leave this earth right now, that would be my truth to tell people. Don't, I should say, question everything. Don't take anything at face value. Don't judge a book by its cover. Don't judge people when you meet them. There are so many more layers to, you know, walking in people's moccasins. You just don't know what people have gone through, or what you know, countries have gone through, or what, you know, history. I'm a Polish, and I didn't even know that Poland had a huge role in World War II. What is that music? I don't know why the music is on.
I do want to let somebody else comment here, Deborah. So
yes, I'm so sorry, but I was just blown away by what you said. I don't know why my music.
Yeah, I appreciate you so much. Thank you, Deborah. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Many blessings. Lots of love.
Thank you. I don't know why that happened. Okay.
Wow. Well, thank you. Thank you, Deborah, so much. Beautiful comments. I really, truly appreciate it. And let me check the chat here. SK is asking, could you tell me whether there's meaning behind that picture? You know, SK, let me look into that, because when I found this picture, I'll bring it up again. I love this image so much, and I couldn't find any attribution to the artist or anything like that. So I want to dig a little deeper, because it's clearly very powerful. Yeah, I love it with the lion or some kind of a big cat behind her, and this beautiful star, 8-pointed star in her forehead. Really incredible. I feel like I see butterflies here. So, and just the universe, right? So I will try to find out and send that. When I send the recording out, I'll try to let you know whatever I find out about the image. I just love that as well. Thank you, Charlotte. So glad you could be here. Thank you, Marianne. So glad you were here as well. Elle says, my previous artwork came through from when I went deeply into the goddess in my master's program. I long to go back to resume that deep work. Oh, you should, Elle. The goddess is calling to you in whatever way. You can come to my program, or in whatever, maybe through your artwork, whatever way feels right for you. Definitely don't turn away. Anne says, I was told through connecting with the goddess, we can raise the kundalini of the earth. Yes, yes, we're going to dive into this with the ley lines in the second class of the course. I can feel the change in energy in my living room, Anne says. Yes, yes, love that. Thank you for your comment, Anne. Oh, thank you, Kim. And thank you, Carly. Hi, Carly. Oh, so good to see you here. Thank you all for your beautiful comments. Yes, Anna, gifts of Pluto in the 8th house. Yes. Thank you, Carrie. Good to see you here. Francesca. Oh, yes, this book. This book is amazing. When the Drummers Were Women. Yes. This is an incredible book. Thank you, Francesca, for mentioning that. I actually was going to bring up this book during my call today, and I forgot, and you remembered. So thank you so much. Francesca says, I was privileged to be a part of her workshops and a group of women drummers here. Something temple to Aphrodite here, place of pilgrimage famous for the women drummers. Yes. Oh, thank you, Francesca. That's wonderful. Okay, Elisa, can you give tips about where to find info about the Melissae? Yes. Okay, I'll give you a link in just a second here. So my dear friend, Veronica Goodchild, wrote a beautiful article about the Melissae, and I think I can get to it pretty quickly here. Veronica Goodchild is, she's a professor at Pacifica in California. I'm just trying to find, oh, here it is, Sacred Bees, yes. Here, you will love this. I'll put this in the chat. Here's Veronica Goodchild's article about the sacred bees. That's one place to go. Also, The Myth of the Goddess, the book that I showed you, is a beautiful reference for many different aspects of the bee, you know, honoring the bees in several different cultures. So definitely look for that. Hopefully that is helpful for you, Elisa. Okay, Carrie, wonderful. So glad that you will join too. That is fantastic. Hi, Carly, again. Okay. Yay, Sarah. So glad you joined the course as well. That is fantastic. I'll be so happy to have you there participating. Oh, that said, here's the music, but I don't know how here's the music got in there. That was supposed to be here's Veronica's article. I must have had that in my copy paste. Okay. Any other questions from anybody, or anybody else want to share about your journey? Oh, did you find it, Anna? Let's see. Oh, beautiful. Is this the artwork of... Okay, I don't know if that's the exact same artwork, but hopefully it is. Thank you, Anna, for that comment. Any questions, anybody? Anything else? I really hope that many, many, many of you will join me for this goddess journey. I can't wait to share this with everybody. Again, it will be open until March 15th. I'm going to put the top of the page back up here on the screen one more time. And I'm going to put the link in the chat one more time. So if anybody's feeling called to join, here is the link to go to. Just scroll down to the donate button. You're going to have so much fun and adventuring and movement and journeying and embodying the goddess. I just can't wait to share it all with you. We're going to go really deep in this class. It's going to be a very beautiful journey into the mystery. So if you're feeling the call, the answer is yes. Say yes to the goddess. It really is important. You know, it's so important when we feel something in our heart to go ahead and say yes. Say the sacred yes. Dive in. Know that you will be changed by this journey. I will put my heart and soul into this as I do into all of my work because I love it. I love doing what I do. And so we will share so much and journey so deep in this class. I just can't wait to begin. So I hope you'll all join me there. So with that, I think we will close. Thank you, Carrie, Deborah, Sarah, Elisa, Deborah. Thank you so much for your beautiful comments here. Oh, Elizabeth, I connected years ago to Yamea, Visions and All. She is a primordial goddess. Oh, yes, I've heard of her. Beautiful. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you so much. Beautiful comment here. Wonderful. Thank you, Wilfredo. Yes, love that. Thank you, June. Thank you, Valerie. Thank you, Baba. Thank you, everybody who's on. So I'm sending so much love to all of you. Many, many blessings. Mwah. I can't wait to see you in the Goddess course. And just wishing so many blessings, love, light, peace, joy to all of you. My heart is so full. Thank you for receiving this, this message today. It has been my great joy and honor to share it with you. Much love, everybody. Bye.